Well, exciting times. Nigel Barden here, delighted about that. Scandinavian comfort food. Well, it's all about this word at the moment. It's hygge, which, there you go. It sounds like I've got some cold, but hygge is basically the feeling from Scandinavia, but particularly in this case Danish, because it's a Danish chef who's got a book out called Scandinavian Comfort Food, but embracing the art of the hygge. But Hygge, and that's Trini Hanneman. She's Danish, divides the time between London and Copenhagen, and it's a great book. It's pretty accessible recipes. She's obviously test-driven them thoroughly, but they're pretty straightforward, as is this one. And I'm lucky enough to spend quite a lot of time over the years in Scandinavia. As children, we used to go there on holidays in a dormobile. Dad used to take us there. A lot, and we'd spend our summer holidays in Sweden and Norway and Finland and Denmark, and this is a dish that actually I remember from my childhood, and we did cure it as kids with various friends, particularly in Norway. Now this is Norwegian salmon. Obviously we've got great salmon in Britain. A lot of it's farmed. 50% of the fish we eat at the moment is farmed, and that's going to be a rising figure, because again, if you're going to keep the waterways in around the world sustainable, we've got to look after those better. We've got to make sure that our farmed fish is as good as we can make it. For instance, I know in Norway, they've cut down on something like 99% of the antibiotics they used to use. They've been at it about 30-40 years now, and I think it's just the same as in our Scottish waters, is that got to make sure they're fast flowing, but once you've taken out you've culled the fish, that you leave a bit of time in the waters that they can reacclimatise. And I think there's a whole load of work gone into farming fish, particularly salmon, and I think that's really crucial. This is a remarkable beast. This is a 10-pound Norwegian salmon, and so what is that, about just under 5 kilos, 4.5 kilos. Beautiful fish. Make sure it didn't die in vain. We're going to utilize all of it, and here you can see it's one of the fillets. I'm going to cure that. It's very straightforward to do. Now what I'm going to do here is just cut this belly section off here, just the end bit, which is we don't need it. It's not something we're going to eat, so I'm just going to cut it quite closely, about inch, 2.5 centimeters from the belly. So here we go. This is the remainder. And what I'm going to do is cure it with a combination of black pepper, of juniper. Juniper is a great ingredient, particularly in Scandinavia. You think of it, juniper, it's one of the great flavour enhancers of gin. You can't make gin without juniper. Interesting, I mean, this is one way of buying it, but if you buy your spices in bigger bags, if you're going to use a lot of them like this, these are coriander seeds, then the key is to get a big bag, much better value, obviously. So into my pestle and mortar, I'm going to put a tablespoon of coriander seeds from this baby here, and these are the same amount of black pepper, and I'm going to break those up. Very therapeutic, this. I like this side of it. Again, make sure you allow a bit of time, but it's quite good to be able to take it out on your spices. Right, that'll do for that. Empty these out. So I've ground them up. Don't take too long. Feel much better for it. There you go. And now these are the juniper berries. So there's basically 2 pots of 50 grams of juniper, which is a lot. So we're just going to lightly bruise these. Quite much softer, say, than your black pepper, obviously. It's amazing. They grow on bushes, particularly you think of them in Italy. That's where it's one of the big famous areas. And in Tuscany, a lot of them grow wild, but they are very fiercely guarded by the juniper harvesters, understandably. But now you're going to see more of them coming through from Eastern Europe. But traditionally, say for Gordon's gin and what have you, they would have harvested them in northern Italy. So I'm just breaking those up a bit, just to bruise them more than anything else. Oops, quite mobile on these juniper berries. And then I'm going to put them into a large bowl and mix them up with all the other ingredients, and then put them on my fillet, and that's it. I can do this left-handed as well. It's a bit like my cocktail shaking. I can go either way. Have you got a preference on your cocktail leaning, Peter?
No, not really. No.
Oh. You're right-handed?
No.
Oh, well, there you go.
Chefs are left-handed.
Well, very interesting, actually. I was at a conference recently, a chef's conference, and it was one of the big points was, again, how many chefs are dyslexic or whatever. You know, but the first time in their lives for a lot of chefs they're told well done was when they started cooking. And it was really interesting. Daniel Clifford from Merchant House near Cambridge stood up and said he was chronically dyslexic at school. Everyone said he was sick and what have you. It was only when he started cooking that people really realised the brilliance. He was far too modest to say that, but I know that. He's a fantastic chef. And a lot of his brigade, you know, have on what level, people say they might struggle, you know, dyslexia, Asperger's and what have you, but actually they've turned out to be fantastic chefs. And I think it's a great way of moving forward. Right, so there you go. Lefties as well. In go all those juniper nicely bruised. In go the coriander and black pepper. And then it's 200 grams of caster sugar, and then we've got some sea salt. Because obviously this is the curing, so that's.
Do you think it's important to use sea salt in this rather than table salt?
I think yes, it is. I think it makes. And what I've done, I've got a bit of Cornish sea salt here, but I'm quite a northern boy, so I'm quite careful with my money. So I actually also got some of a you know, supermarket brand, but I made sure it was sea salt. It just feels right for me. It's something from the sea, by the sea, and it's not a byproduct of any other, you know, the chemical business or anything like that. You know, with some of the very fine salt you can buy, the table salt. So I like to use it if I can, but I do shop around to make sure I'm not paying too much for it, particularly when you're using a lot to cure it like this. But that does smell absolutely gorgeous. Of covering it and making, just to reiterate, there's a tablespoon of coriander seeds, same of black pepper, 50 grams of juniper berries, 200 of custard sugar, and then 150 grams. Here we go. Thank you very much, Maestro. Of sea salt. You can fold the tail in because it's a mighty fillet as this, and you basically use all of this, and over it goes. And what it will do, however tightly you wrap your cling film in it, it will give off quite a lot of liquid over the next few days, because we're going to leave it like this for 3 days in the fridge, but it'll draw out all the liquid, or lots of it anyway, and you then drain it off, you know, maybe every, I don't know, 12 hours, have a look at it, and if there's any on the plate, just pour it away, because you want it to dry out. That's the key. You want the real boys cooking this, isn't it? Just basically doing, sticking, pressing, you know, working out with the pestle and mortar. That's it. So I'm going to fold that tail in, and then it's as scientific as that. Make sure I've got all my juniper berries in, keeping all that lovely cure in. That's the key. So that's really quite snug. I would actually probably put another couple of layers in around that, just to really make it completely watertight. So there you go. So that's basically, it's quite tight. As I say, I'll probably put a little bit more cling film round, but it's all nicely covered. You know, you can make sure, even where I've left the end bits there, you could actually make sure that you've got plenty of your curing salt and sugars around that as well. Now, how exciting is this? 3 days on, Peter. So there will be a bit of liquid in here. I have been pouring the liquid off as it gathers, and as I say, but it's that lovely cure of salt and sugar and juniper and black pepper and coriander seeds. So I'm going to wash that lot. You can see, well, you will do in a minute, particularly how it's just changed its colour. So that's it. That's the cooking bit. It's just curing basically. So I'm going to slice some of this off, plate it up. I'm going to serve it with rye bread, which again seems perfectly right from a Scandinavian perspective. And just show you here. It's just, I love the beautiful, rich colour, but it's actually become quite leathery. You can smell it now. It's just absolutely lovely and chewy and jammy and everything that it should be. And you can cut that quite thinly depending on what you fancy. But it is nice and leathery compared to the fish that went in, and that curing has just been working its magic.
It's quite dense, isn't it?
Yeah, very.
As a texture.
Yeah. And I mean, smoked salmon can be like that sometimes, but anyway, here we go. This is, you know all about this bakery, don't you?
I certainly do, yeah. Just up the road from me.
Yeah. It's Village Bakery.
Yeah, Village Bakery.
In the Lake District. So.
I'm quite into rye bread at the moment, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I've just come back from Germany and I have quite a few sort of heavy seeded rye breads, and I just love the flavour.
Yeah.
Because of the fermentation on it, it's just really...
So you know it's doing you good.
Yeah.
And then you creamed horseradish, you can make your own. Again, it could be sour cream and just spoon in some horseradish yourself. It's great if you grow it at home. This is quite a hot version, which I like. Just gives it a little bit of something. And just as a nice bedrock to that salmon. If you don't want it too hot, we'll just either the one you make or the one you buy in, just get a nice creamed one. And it's going to be one for you and one for me. I'm actually just going to try it as well on its own before. Remarkably lemony, and which is surprising, but really clean, really fresh, beautifully distinct flavours. Considering the amount of salt you use and sugar, it's neither too sweet nor too salty, which is key. And it really, what you get is the flavour of the salmon coming through. Beautiful piece of farm salmon from Norwegian Seafood here, but it's really showing homage to it. So I'm going to take a piece of that. I'm going to pass one over to you to try. And then, here we go. If you wanted to put even more lemon on it, you could just put some fresh lemon. That would be great, but that's really all it would need. Now, what to drink with it? This is our alcoholic one. I love this because it's a wine, but with a bottle top closer. And that's Green Glow, Hawke's Bay, 2014. So it's a skin fermented Sauvignon Blanc. So it's been rested on its lees, on its skins. So here we go. Look at the depth of colour. You can see that against the white background, but really intense. No idea particularly why they've gone for the bottle, but it's, you know, it's a bit of frippery. I like that. In this day and age, we all know that cork's struggling. I think about 50% of the world's wine is still driven cork. I like corks, I have to say. But that's actually, that's a bit like an aged Sauvignon. Really chunky and deep. It's not light and gooseberry. It's intense. It comes from vintage roots, so it's got minimal input into it as far as vintage roots are all about. It's a company who are producing organic biodynamic wines, which are basically left to get on with it as much as possible. It's estate grown, and that works really well. From vintage roots, about £17 a bottle. So it is definitely one for a Christmas Day special, but it's big and chunky, and it would stand up very much to the salmon. I'm getting sidetracked because here, something which I tried recently and I loved, but it's from Love Kombucha. It's remarkable. It's the fermented green tea, but they've got ginger in it as well. I like the little crock top flip bottles. Again, it's got enough acidity to cut through the richness, this very rich, intense cured salmon. Gosh, and the ginger's mighty nice and spicy. Oh, that's got to do you good. Something that tastes, that's working away in your stomach. My happy Buddha there is thinking, wow, what's that? But if that does, you think that will carry on, that'll break down anything in your stomach. So that's the ginger kombucha. They do a plain one, and they do ones with blueberry and what have you. But it's an organic, and it's from Love Kombucha. And that's for Green Glow Hawke's Bay Sauvignon Blanc, but quite intense, not gooseberry, more weighty than you'd normally get from a Sauvignon Blanc. And that's from vintage roots, and that would go very well with this Norwegian seafood cured salmon. Really easy peasy, but serve that up at Christmas, and I think people would be really delighted. That would be fantastic to have before the turkey. So happy days. That fish did not die in vain. Yum scrum.